Hold on.
And there we go.
Let me turn off this country music real quick, child. Hold on.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Sabby and Jaybe show on Revolutionary Blackout Network. Oh, there, somebody went. It was Collin. Okay. Welcome, everybody. The Sabby and Jaybe show is on Revolutionary Blackout Network, and we are here every single Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So good to see all of you here with us today. Just to let you guys know, if you guys have not already, you guys can go to our Substack at revolutionaryblackout.substack.com so you guys can get all those email notifications whenever we go live and upload clips. If you guys have not already, please give the video a like. That pushes us out into the algorithm. Thank you so very much. I am one of your hosts. We have Sabby Sabs, the hostess with the mostest, joining us. Good to see you, Sabs.
What's up, Jaybe?
Yeah. Good to see you. As per usual, whenever we have guests, I want to be respectful of their time. So hello to everybody that's watching right now. Good to see all of you in here. And yes, we have our guests. One will be back in shortly, but I also want to introduce our guests. We're going to, in the words of Queen Latifah, ooh, ladies first, ladies first. We're going to say hello to former RBN member and sister of sisters. We have Afeni coming in here. Good to see you back, sis.
It's so nice to see y'all. Hello, what's up, Sabby? What's up, Eric? We see you in the background, period. And when ever call and come back, hey, baby. But hi, so nice to see y'all.
Hey, Afeni.
Hey. All right. And we also have Eric coming in. Eric T. Red, the host, the guy with the background, the guy that's pulling the strings. Good to see you, Eric.
Hey, good to be seen. Thanks for the invite. And yeah, I'm often in the background on the old Sabby Sab show, trying to help things run smoothly. Hopefully, sometimes. And
very smooth, yes.
Yeah, ready to talk about some movement stuff.
Yep, definitely. And also,
Collin's trying.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Oh, that was me and Jaybe. Sorry.
Fighting over it. We do that sometimes. Sabby and I will hit the same comment, and it goes in and out. There he is.
Yeah. Hey, Collin is with Indie News Network. Good to see you, Collin. Nice to have you here as well.
Oh, I think he froze.
He got froze.
All right.
Yeah, at least you got a good freeze position.
Froze like my favorite ice cream, strawberry shortcake. Okay. Well, when Collin comes back, we will include him in. But one of the things that we're going to be talking about today, I wanted to, and I think this is actually apropos, especially given the times that we are in right now, especially what's going on with Sudan, Congo, Palestine, Haiti. We're going to be talking about this is movement building. How? And so this is actually going to be more of an educational stream for all of you. This is not one of the sexy topics, right? But this is a very important topic because a lot of people have asked us, how do we come together so that we can build dual power, so that we can do mutual aid, so that we can help our communities, so that we can push through this system? I think this is one of the best topics to really hone in on. If this is your first time on RBN, this is a perfect show to get introduced to us for. And so I just want to thank everybody that's here. Collin, good to see you. How are you? You were frozen a little bit earlier. How you doing?
Hopefully good now with my internet, so I think it's fixed now.
All right. It's good. Good to see your smiling face as well. So one of the things that we want to talk about, because a lot of people who that we get in our comments still ask, well, what is the first step in your mind to start movement building? And in response to this, before we get started with that, we have a video that we wanted to share. Sabs, you sent this to me, and I want to make sure I get to this because one of the things that is the question is who should be the leader of these movements? And then we're going to start off. I'm going to start off with you, Afeni, after the video, and then we're going to move on to Eric and then Collin for your responses as well. So just give me 1 second. We're going to share a screen.
Yeah, so it was this interview in particular that made me start to wonder, like, like who should be, leading these movements. This discussion with Bree and Jank, it made me wonder, like, maybe media personalities should not lead movements, So my thing is, I think it should be the grassroots, the people on the ground. But it was this interview that made me question.
Okay, so let's get started, and then we'll get into the responses.
Jimmy calls me and says, hey, do you want to do this force the vote thing? I go, hey, strategically, I think that is the right path. I'm not sure about the tactics yet, Jimmy. And so let's keep talking about it. And in fact, you can go back and find videos of him saying, oh, Jank agreed with me in the beginning. Jank agreed with me. Yeah, that's right. Because as I've explained here for over an hour, I not only agree with that strategy, I was executing that strategy, but not that specific tactic. But when we said, hey, I don't agree with this tactic, that's when Jimmy went rogue and started smearing everyone who didn't agree and went and made it a toxic cesspool. So Brianna, when they reached out to you and said, what's next? What happened was, after we were done with Force to Vote, a relevant issue came up, $15 minimum wage. That's where
this was after that. This was gone. This was after that. There was nothing left.
No problem. So let's say that also passed. But when I asked for help there, everybody was like, no, we're mad at you. Jimmy's our boss, and he says we're all mad at you. So we're not helping on $15. Wait a minute, I thought we were a movement. Well, you're not helping on $15 minimum wage? What is wrong with you? I don't mean you, I mean generically. And then, okay, fine, we're past that. But Brianna, everybody then went like, I'm taking my ball and going home. No, brother, we got a 2-year window.
That's not what we did. I don't know what was happening in your world.
And that's what I did. But everybody else left when their feelings were hurt.
I don't know what was going on in your world, but that is absolutely not what's happening in my world. Nobody took their ball and went home, and we all forcefully pressured and talked about, to the best of our ability, the squad's failure to push on $15 minimum wage. Pramila Jayapal whipping the votes against them doing exactly that. And we covered it ad nauseum on this show and every other show on this side of the left that I remember. And while I got to say, Jank, you talked earlier in the podcast about reaching out and extending olive branches. I hope that that's true. And I hope I see that going forward. But you and I had our conversation on your show because I reached out to you and invited you on my show. And you declined, but said I could come on yours. And I did. And I'm glad we had that conversation. But I have not felt the ability. I have not felt olive branches reached out to me. And I have not felt the ability to reach out to other people. It was me that invited Sam Cedar in the wake of Force the Vote onto this show to have a conversation. And I have,
Brianna, if you want to get into that level of personal grievance,
it's not personal grievance. I'm really actually trying to bury the hatchet. I'm going to say that I think it's constructive. I hate, can I just be honest? I hate that there are all these people who are in my own community that I don't talk to anymore, that I can't have this guest on my show who I see making funny, informative, smart content, but I feel like can never bury the hatchet over something that was a tactical disagreement that turned into saying some of the ugliest things. Again, I don't want to talk about the reasons I'm offended, but let's suffice to say that I was grievously offended by some of the very personal things that were said at the time. But I just want to say for the record right now, I would be more than happy to bury the hatchet going forward.
Okay. So first off, Afeni, when it comes to, after listening to the exchange between Brianna Joy Gray and Cenk Uygur, in your view, who should be the ones that are taking the lead in the movements, please?
Well, first of all, like, in order to be leading a movement, you have to actually be on the ground with people to lead a movement. So inherently, like, while yes, digital media and these hosts that have been doing these shows, did they introduce a lot of people to our politics, to the left, to communism, all the other stuff? Absolutely. Myself and many other folks that I'm in organization with and in community with right now watched TYT and the majority reports back in 2016 and 2017. That was our introduction to the left space. But just because we were introduced by them does not mean we were organized by them into actually being who we are. So I just think that it's really backwards to think that people that are not actually attached to these communities are going to be able to lead anything. I think, especially when you think about like a Cenk Uygur or like Anna Kasparian, like, you know, I think to call the movement leaders is strong. And as we start to talk about what is necessary moving forward, because we are in a posture where, like, you know, fascism is here, it's alive and well. We're living in a police state that's happening. 69 cop cities being built across the country. The cross training with the IOF happening at these cop cities. We're already in police state. We're already in hell. So we need to start organizing on the ground and being serious about it. And I think that, you know, I don't know, like, I just think that it's very hubristic of a Cenk Uygur or Anna Kasparian, or even some people that I love who do these shows, to think that they're movement leaders. They're very much not. It's not given that. So yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Eric?
So what I would say is I think it's almost kind of starting with the wrong question. I feel like rather than starting with leaders, I would say we should be starting with demands. Right? If you're going to have a movement, if you're going to have a general strike, really any of these things, you can't have these. I mean, they need demands, right? Any strike needs demands. And so that's the question I always put out there. You know, what are our demands? Are we clear about them? Do we have a clear and concise list? And, you know, it's something that I've tried to do with the things that I've worked on. But I feel like if you start there, you know, then you can work on inspiring people. You can talk about, once you have the demands, what are the solutions? And, you know, so that's where I would come from on that question.
Sure. Collin, your thoughts?
As someone who's done this as a teacher by association for the last 20 years, as Afeni said, it has to be, the people have to take the lead, whatever that means. So whatever organization locally or statewide that is already doing the work, they should be the ones who should be uplifting those issues and bringing it to the forefront. That being said, I feel the independent media has a role to play in that. And I believe what independent media should do is help to elevate these issues and elevate these organizations. And from what I'm seeing, even in DC right now, one of the programs that I'm actually looking at is they are looking to build out their social media apparatus in terms of how can they articulate the issues that are important to people in a way that is quick, is easy for people to understand, but kind of gets the point across quickly. We're kind of seeing what happened. We've seen this in terms of Palestine, you know, how so many of these content creators are able to create content around Palestine that the whole world essentially is pro-Palestine given the power of social media. And I think independent media, especially with what we're able to do, has the ability to do that. But it cannot overstep or overtake the work that the organizers are doing on the ground, because they know the people well, they know the issues well, and as Eric said, they're better able to make those demands the best. So I would always say, if you're asking who should lead it, the question is, who are you asking to lead? And I think more oftentimes, especially in these circles, they're not asking us. They're asking the people with a platform who may not be intimate with these issues, that may take our issues and water them down into something that is unrecognizable. And I think being on the ground, we have to do our best to protect that. because we want to make sure that if we're making demands, we want to make sure that every single one of those demands are being met and not watered down into something that's unrecognizable to the point where they're giving us crumbs.
Gotcha. Sabs, I would like to get your thoughts on this as well.
I think everyone's points are really valid. I would say if we look at the pro-Palestinian, movement, that I call it a movement because it's happening internationally. Those rallies were not put on and were not led by media people. You may see media people show up and cover. I've shown up to cover them, but I'm not leading it. I didn't lead any of those rallies or events. I just showed up there, right? And they were able to get hundreds of thousands of people out in the street repeatedly, whether it's DC, New York, Boston, et cetera, Texas, even in Texas, like all over the place, right? So who led those rallies? That was PSL and Answer Coalition. So a lot of times they'll work together to get these events going, and they do bring out the numbers. I will say that they get the people out in the streets. So I always tell people, if you're looking to do some type of rally event and you want large numbers, it might be good to talk to them just because they have the infrastructure, they have the funding, they have buses that actually go to different cities to pick up people to take them to the rallies in DC. Like we're talking about, they have resources that I think a lot of us just don't have, right? So look at how successful those rallies have been. Look at how successful the pro-Palestinian movement has been. Again, it wasn't led by media people. I think the problem that you run into, although I agree, I thought Force the Vote was a good idea, but the problem that you run into when it's led by media is that because they have these platforms, this can be a win for them, but this can also be, a disaster for them. If it works out, great, it can help their platform. If it doesn't work out, it can hurt their platform. And then there's also different personalities that are involved. Now you got people with different personalities, different egos. There's going to be disagreements. People are going to butt heads, but I think you're going to see that in any activist organization where people are going to have disagreements. The civil rights movement had disagreements over slogans and where to protest and how to protest. That happened back then too. But I think the difference is, imagine if the civil rights movement was led by someone who hosted like a radio show or a news reporter or news commentator back then, right? Like you have something to really lose, or you have something to really gain because you have that platform. So I think it's great for those of us in media to actually elevate those activities. So we do this a lot, JB. We bring on people that are promoting a march or a rally or something like that, and different activists, like what's going on in the community. We do that often. So I think that's where our role is. And like, if we wanted to participate in those movements, we can do so, but I don't think that we should lead it because I feel like, again, there's a lot at stake for someone who is a media personality.
Yeah. I just want to give my thoughts on it. And I'm going to use one of my analogies. For those of us who are independent media, I want you guys to listen to me very closely. Do you want to be a microphone or do you want to be a mouth? You have to be either one or the other. You can't be both. For those of us who are in independent media, if we truly want the ground, the people to actually move, it has to be the people who lead that movement first. People like myself, I'm here to amplify the voices of the people who are on the ground. I am not the voice that dictates what happens. I am the bullhorn, not the mouth. And this is something I think that needs to be brought to the attention of a lot of people who are in independent media. They try to say, oh, we're trying to lead a movement. No. You are needed to amplify the voices of the leaders of the movement. You are basically an independent version of the CBS, NBC, and ABC. That's all you are. You're just an independent version of it. All right? Let the people who are actually doing the work on the ground lead the movement, because therefore it's just like what was said earlier. I don't know the particular issues that is needed in St. Paul or in Phoenix or in Flint. I don't know that. So therefore, I cannot dictate to what they do on the ground. Also, like a man, I cannot center myself in these different areas. Like, with respect to you, Eric, white people cannot center themselves when it comes to black and brown spaces. I'm a cis male. I cannot center myself within the spaces of people who are trans, right? I have to be mindful of my privilege of having this platform and use it to elevate instead of being that voice. That's all I had to say there. So one of the next questions I have, and I'm going to start off with you, Collin, first, is once you find the people who should lead the movement, what is the next step that you think is the most crucial in starting a movement? Because the thing is that there's many different niches and different movements too.
Mm-hmm.
So how, in your mind, do we start or choose which topic to take on? Or do we take them all on? What do you say?
I'll answer this question in terms of force to vote, because I don't think many people know this, but I helped to organize it. And this was before I was doing this. What happened was that at that time, I was watching Jackson Hinkle at that time. The whole force to vote thing was going on. He made the call on his show at that time that he wanted to come to DC to protest. I told him through a super chat, if you're serious about it, if you're able to come to DC, I will host you. He took me up on my word. I had to get the permit. So I still have the permit. The permit is in my name for that force to vote protest at that time.
Okay.
What happened was at that time, there were DSA members there.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that they were saying to me, and this was the thing that I wish we kind of discussed a little more with that interview with Jank. And this is something that, and when I watched your clip on this, Sabby, it made me kind of reflect on that time and what we were doing at that time. I think what we were doing, I thought was a good thing. The one thing I think in going back, I should have done, or maybe we should have done at that point, was when I talked with the DSA members who came to that rally, they were very disappointed with their leadership and the stance that they were taking, because the leadership did not want to follow through in pushing the squad and what they wanted to do. This was the members, not their leadership. So let's make that distinction. The members wanted the squad, to force the vote. It was the leadership that didn't. And so if I were to do it again, we should have involved DSA in terms of the members who are willing to do the work. So since it was in their bylaws to force the vote, they should have been the ones to implement it. And what we should have done in independent media was help elevate the members of DSA and then support them in that work. We kind of took that on. And so because of that, DSA had nothing to do with it, the membership, the leadership. They distanced themselves from that because they wanted access. And it would just left the members kind of like, we'll try and do what we can, but, the leadership is not with this. So it just kind of fell flat after that. So again, all that to say is, once you identify the people, listen to them, because generally they know what the issues are. And sometimes, depending if they're organized, they might have a plan as to how they're able to get what they need. So I think just even in that, it takes a lot more listening and a lot more collaboration versus just hearing the issue and being like, okay, I'm going to take this issue and kind of run with it. Involve the people and see what can be done, who's going to take on what issue and how like strategize as to what needs to be done, but it has to be in the context of the people who are involved. And I think looking back, we didn't do that. So that's kind of the reflection that I had to have in terms of what we did for Force the Vote back then. But that's what I'm saying to people now, especially since I do this, you have to ask how the people who are doing it, how they want to proceed.
That's interesting. I just want to add really quick. That's interesting, Collin. I think a lot of people may not even realize the ground action in reference to Force the Vote. I feel like that kind of was overshadowed, you know.
Yeah. So thank you very much for that as well. So to you, Collin, I'm sorry, Eric, what your same question to you in regards to what is the next step in choosing which movement, or do you choose them all?
Yeah, well, I mean, we're in a very different place now than we were with Force the Vote. You know, there was actually this hope that the squad would actually do something for us and that they're on our side. And I think at this point, among, you know, those of us that I would characterize as on the real left around here, you know, we know that basically every Democrat and every Republican in Congress or in the government right now are our enemy. Essentially, it's basically, you know, they don't represent us, and so, you know, it is a very different thing now. And there's someone like Cenk. I mean, it's we all know, you know, that he's basically on the wrong side of this. He's cosplaying as a progressive. What I think of is the way that the Free Palestine movement is running now. In my view, what's happened is this issue is just so overwhelming and just so clear and as a demand, and, you know, thousands of unalived kids will do that it overwhelms kind of everything else, and people get in the streets over it. It's and you almost don't need leaders, right? It's kind of come through all this like a wave. I'm wondering if there's a way that we could get that kind of a spark and connect into that, but into something bigger, into something that, you know, my thing is always the money and corruption, right? That if you look at why everything is so terrible right now and our government is so bad, it's, you know, they don't represent us. They represent, you know, the billionaire class and the corporations and all that. So I feel like if we could find a way to have that kind of a spark about money and corruption and basically cleaning it up and actually having a real democracy, having a real government that works for us and isn't totally, deeply and implacably corrupt. If we could turn that into a movement, I feel like it's, again, like the Palestine one, maybe it doesn't need leaders, or it doesn't, you know, need all these podcaster leaders or something. You know, that would be my take on it.
Okay.
But I will say, in reference to the Palestine issue, we have to remember they started doing protests that week, like the week after, actually the day after October 7th, there were protests that weekend. So even before the death toll started to reach a couple thousand, people were already out in the streets. And I think that's just because people were, again, a lot of young people are very much aware of how the Palestinian people have been treated. So the desire to get out in the streets was already there. And I think that after, you know, Gaza was attacked after October 7th, that was like, honestly, the red button to push. And people were like, nope, we got to get out in the streets. This is ridiculous. It's not the first time there's been a pro-Palestinian protest, but even before that death toll was high, the numbers were already there out in the streets. Same thing when PSL and Answer Coalition held that anti-war rally in DC in last February. I think, Afeni, I think you were at that. They had thousands of people out in the streets. So it's obvious there's something that those two organizations are really good at. They're really good at getting the word out and getting the people out in the streets and providing the transportation for people to get there.
Yeah. So just to extend this question to you, Afeni, how do people start? Do they go with just a niche one? By niche, I mean more focused, or do they just go broad spectrum as far as choosing what to do, mutual aid or action on the ground with?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's a really important question because, like, let's be real, force the vote came and went. You feel me? And many working class folks don't even know about that discourse. Folks can't pay their rent. Folks, groceries is high, and niggas can't get a good job with some good wages. You feel me? So, like, when I think about what is necessary in this moment, I think it's really important for us to ask the real questions of how do we interrupt the propaganda that keeps allowing Joe Biden to win primaries? How do we interrupt that cycle? Because it's not that our folks are not aware of what issues affect them. Even like I will say, I'm very politically engaged. I've never been polled. I vote in midterms and everything, primaries. I've never been polled, so I don't know who the hell they talking to. But from what we can see, the folks that they are talking to, a lot of them support a ceasefire. A lot of them support Medicare for all. A lot of them support bringing home some of that war funding and actually spending it on domestic funding. A lot of them support a better, improved infrastructure. A lot of folks support a higher minimum wage. So how do we feel that disconnect between what people want and what is actually happening? And that's when you get into spaces like mutual aid. That is when you get into spaces like, what does it look like for us to build dual power and to build and to organize autonomy for our communities? So that way they don't have to be as reliant on government services or on even just participating in the duopoly in the first place, participating in the farce of democracy in the first place. So I think a lot of it starts with even on that very niche level of just getting to know who is in your community. If your neighbors just had a baby, go bring them some diapers. Just get to know them. If there is an elderly person down the street, figure out, hey, what days do you go get your medicine? Can I fill in some of that time for you? And can I go to the pharmacy for you? Stuff like that. Relationship building is where we need to start. And yes, it seems really minuscule, and it seems really inconsequential. But let me tell you something. I trust Sabby. And if I call Sabby right now and say, hey, shit about to hit the fan, yada, 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 I know Sabby's going to move. And I know that because Sabby and I are in relationship. We actually know each other. And I think that's a lot of it. We're asking ourselves to participate in things and do things that we are literally societally not ready for. Because you can't say that you want to do the thing, but you don't want to talk to nobody. You can't say that you want to do the thing, but you don't even know who live next door to you. If you live in an apartment complex, there's no reason you don't know at least 3 people that's on your floor. You know what I'm saying? And it's little stuff like that. You can't do the mutual aid if you don't know what folks need. You can't. And I think also as organizers, we have to step back and we have to look at what our part is in this. Because I'm gonna be real with you. The nonprofit industrial complex is industrial and it's complexing. Okay. Every little bit of money that I have seen, every grant that I see, every organization that I'm in space with right now, everyone is, well, how are we going to get out the vote? How are we going to do voter registration? How are we going to do this? How are we going to do that? And in a way, I get it, because the nonprofit industrial complex, it is designed and tailored to make us literally run on the hamster wheel. So it's I understand it to a certain extent how people get caught in well, I'm doing this nonprofit work, so I know that I'm doing something. I'm doing something to actually build towards it. But actually what you're doing is you're participating in yet another state-sponsored program that does nothing but actually uphold what they have going on here. There's no threats, because let me tell you, as soon as you become a threat, they pull funding. It happened to an organization that organizes out here in Maryland. It's called CASA. CASA is a immigration rights and housing organization. It's also national, but they have local pockets. And this is the last time I'm going to say for real, but CASA came out in support of a ceasefire, I think in like November or something like that, or maybe even December. And a funder, a philanthropist in Maryland, pulled $150,000 from them. Staff, people's livelihoods gone. So do I understand to a certain extent how people get caught in this rigmarole because you want to do the right thing, you want to be in these spaces, you want to build, you want to do that stuff? Absolutely. And also, as organizers, how long can we run on the hamster wheel? What sacrifices are we willing to make to actually get people to the place that they need to be to participate in a system, in a more autonomous system, to participate in dual power and direct democracy? What role are we playing in actually getting people there? So I think about, I honestly think about this a lot, and we're in like a lot of the national spaces that I'm in. We do a lot of talking and strategizing. And to a certain extent, I know this is not gonna be the most popular thing to say, but I'm fixing to say it. To a certain extent, do I believe that we have to have some buy-in to the electoral system? Yes, maybe, just a little bit. But should that be a lion's share of where our energy goes? Hell no. But that's just how everything is set up right now. And I think that's what the most frustrating part of it is for me as somebody who does organizing work full-time all the time, is that how do we break out of that and also like keep the movement afloat at the same time?
That's a good point. I'm glad you brought up mutual aid as well, Afeni, because the reality is, as much as we talk about unionizing and we talk about people going on strike, that's not done without mutual aid. They already established mutual aid so that they can feed each other. They have food for the weeks that they're on strike so that they can pay their bills while they're on strike. A lot of people may not realize that, but mutual aid is also a part of that as well. And I think Terry Hinton might be in the chat. Terry's a part of the RBN Boston chapter. Terry will tell you, we meet. Sometimes we meet in person as a group. Sometimes we meet virtually. But when we do these events, it just doesn't come out of anywhere. Like we actively meet and strategize and come up with different ideas and how we can help people. But I think the big thing is what Afeni said earlier, is that you have to know what the community needs. And if you're not talking to people in the community, you're not going to know what they need. That means you may have to hop off of social media for a bit and actually go talk to people in person, because I think that there's too much time spent on social media and not enough time spent out in these streets. I see some people, I'm like, I don't know how in the world. I see sometimes people put out a tweet like every hour. I'm like, where is you? Where are you? What are you doing?
I will say this, Sabby. On the flip of that, sometimes being on independent media can help you kind of figure out what those issues are. For example, with the organization that I'm with, one of the things that kind of came up is one of our legislators in DC is proposing a child tax credit for residents in DC. So as a teacher-based organization, my boss basically asked us, do you think that we should, promote this as an organization? And immediately we said yes. So then the next thing was he figured to send me to Atlanta to learn more about what's happening regarding child tax credits in other states. But I would have been as fervent to actually do it if it wasn't for me being in independent media, and more especially, RBN, because I know you've had conversations about child tax credits on past shows. And I know I've also talked about child tax credits on my show. So that's why I'm saying, being in independent media in certain places, I think there can be ways where independent media where we can give the information so that when these things pop up locally on a statewide, you can be like, oh, I've heard this from this channel or whatever. Let me go down to the local level, or at least try and connect with people on the local level and find out more. So I don't want to disclude independent media in that, because I think there is a space for us for that. But I think it's just a question of what we're talking about that will help people kind of be like, oh, I heard this from Sabby, or I heard this from Jaybe, or I heard this from Afeni. Like, is there anything I can do like in my town or my city that we can maybe have something like this? So I think it also matters in what our content is to help people kind of realize what opportunities are available or what is possible in terms of having that kind of to help build that kind of organizing on the ground.
Yeah, Charlie's a part of the chapter too. Hi, Charlie. Sorry.
So, you know what? This is also all really good points. One of the questions I had, and I'll just say this: I was actually looking for it, but someone brought out a TikTok, and they were talking about how we have to be careful about mutual aid in a sense where we don't want to be doing mutual aid to keep capitalism afloat.
Right.
And so it's like, are you just keeping things along so that people can keep going within this system? Or are you using mutual aid in such a way where it actually builds that dual power so that we can walk away from capitalism? And I just want to give a shout out to former RBM member Kamali, because the first time I ever heard dual power was from him.
Yep.
And so when I heard that, I was like, what in the world is that? And then he educated me on what dual power is. This is what will make you dangerous to the powers that be. Is building something, an alternative to a system that does not exploit you. And that is what you need to be. You need to be dangerous in a sense where you are helpful to the people, but you are dangerous to an exploitative system. And so this is what I learned from all y'all that are on the screen with me right now. All right. Looking at you, Afeni. And so that's one of the things that I wanted to highlight as well. Now, I have a question as well that I wanted to ask you guys. And I'm going to start off with you, Sabs, because I want to get your thoughts on this first. Is protesting the only tool of movement building?
No.
Go ahead.
There are other things that you can do. You know, everybody can't get out in the streets. There were people that were part of the civil rights movement that were not a part of the protests because some reasons, like physically, they couldn't be a part of the protests and other reasons as well. But there were people in the background doing things, like some people were responsible for making flyers, right? Like some people were responsible for handing out flyers. Some people were responsible for the mutual aid portion, which is making sure everybody had food, everybody had a lunch that were going to those protests and things like that. Some people were responsible for booking guests to speak at these events. So there's different things that you can do. When they didn't have social media and they were able to get over 250,000 people in DC. We have social media, right? So we should be able to get those numbers, more than those numbers that they had there, right? So we have tools that they didn't have. So there's that. There's other things that you can do. You can organize at your job, whether it's you trying to start a union. We've seen this been happening more so over the past couple of years, more people trying to unionize. So there's the labor front that you can do, but also there's worker co-ops. And Marco has talked about this on RBM multiple times, like unionization should not be the last step. Professor Richard Wolff talks about this all the time, that your end game should be worker cooperative so that you own a piece of the company yourself. You're not just under the supervisor and the CEO of a company that you work for. There's nothing wrong with being a part of a union, but we've seen where the union management has basically dismissed what the union members want, what the rank and file want, and the union management just basically makes their own decision in the end. So I think worker cooperatives is another way, but there's all these different things that you can do. It doesn't have to be you out in the streets protesting, because again, not everyone can do that physically, and some people can't do it because of their jobs. So,
yeah. So, Eric, I also want to go to you as far as what are some, in your mind, some background things that can be done outside of just doing protesting? Because everybody thinks that doing work on the ground or action on the ground is just, coming out there with signs, we shall overcome. What else besides that can be done in order to help build a movement in your view?
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I want to say that I strongly agree with what everybody's been saying about mutual aid, about um, like Sabby just said, worker co-ops and all these things. I guess what I would what I'm wondering is there a way to have an umbrella for these things, to have something more along the lines of or have as part of this an overall movement, so that when we're protesting, when we're doing mutual aid, when we're talking to people, we're saying, oh, and I'm part of this movement, and these are the demands of that movement, these are the goals, and this is, and come join us, and let's try to go at these things together. For me, I would focus on the money and corruption. It's say, your government's corrupt and just following the money. And so I guess that's where I come from. Is there a way to have all of these, and like Roger Meadows is always hitting on, is ballot measures, right? And what I say to Roger is, yes, I really agree with you, Roger. But can we make this bigger? Can we have a movement that has some kind of cohesion? And to me, having a clear set of demands is a way to have that kind of cohesion, to bring it all together and make all these things cumulative and powerful.
Sure.
I don't know. Is it possible? How could we get there?
Okay.
Well, should we let Eric show those demands, since he just mentioned it?
Yeah, sure. Let's share the demands really quick, and then we can continue. So I have it here. All right, so this is the 11 demands. Eric, go.
Yeah, so this is, you can see this on the site 11demands.org. Should be pretty easy to find these days. You can hit on, well, yeah, so there is this start, right? The education is always, this crucial first step, right? And everything that's happening out there is, and of course, online is a big part of that, of spreading the word, but also in person and all these things. But if you want to go up and hit set of demands.
Sure.
Yeah. So I always put the big money in politics and government first, just because it's the real action item when people are asking for solutions. But we can just go at the big items like pretty quickly. But yeah, so there's fix the big money. You got 2, healthcare for all. Part of the idea is to have strong demands. Not don't ask for Medicare for all. That's a compromise. Ask for real health care for all. Ask for a national healthcare system for the U.S. Right? You go to the third one. A minimum standard of living for everyone. Right? Don't just ask for a $15 minimum wage. Ask for a real standard of living. Decommodify the basic needs. Give everyone demand housing for everyone, and just take that. I'm proposing we take these kind of hard lines, hard tax. Number 4, end the wars. It's basically just cutting these things, disband NATO. Just saying no, it's all wrong. None of it should be happening. Number 5, reject censorship. Today now they're trying to ban TikTok, and so it's a strong no. It's just none of it should be happening. 6, racial and criminal justice reform. Yes, provide reparations and treat them like they are a debt owed. And don't be pussyfooting around with oh, we're going to give it to organizations or something like that. Reparations needs to be a non-negotiable part of any larger package of real revolutionary reforms. And you got cut police budgets and so forth. End the drug war, legalize it all. We need to be pushing, just hard tax like this. All right, we'll just finish off quickly. 7, climate emergency. You can go to 8, immigration reform, abolish ICE. You can go to 9, the election system. You would need open source, transparency, of course, ranked choice. 10, revamp taxation and funding. We should be thinking big about what taxes are a big deal. and those that have the money should be paying them. And lastly, democratize the enterprise is, get really push hard on worker co-ops and make them a real engine of real change.
All right.
So yeah, the idea is to have, a list like this that captures things that get people excited, that get people, saying, yes, of course, I want that. We need that. And to have that be kind of a center of ideally a larger movement.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So what another? I think you have a hard stop at 7, correct, Sabs?
I do, but you guys can continue. But
Okay.
I think we were going to go to Afeni.
Okay, Afeni, please.
I also have a hard stop at 7, but y'all know I love y'all real bad. I am. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I just really want to finish off by saying that you don't have to be well trained to be an organizer. I know, like, a lot of the times the organizing space seems really inaccessible, and it's not that. And that's also on organizers like myself and others. Like, we don't make the organizing space as accessible as we could. But I think when we're talking about these things, like, people see it as like this big abstract thing, but it only takes 3.5% of the population. You could be a part of that 3.5% that actually decides to transform this society. And I think that the more we actually have these conversations, the more we talk about the importance of mutual aid, the importance of building real autonomous dual power. Because, folks be talking about dual power, but, it don't be looking like that. Don't be looking like how it was looking in Africa, or how it's looking in Cuba, or how it's looking in Russia. You know what I'm saying? Dual power is a real threat to the United States, to imperialism, to the West as a whole. And we can't be afraid to do that. And I think all of that really starts with building trust with folks. So please, if you have not already, join a church group. Start there. It's like, if there are folks that do Salvation Army every week, go tap in with them. Go see what they got going on. But find your people and start really talking about the issues that are important within your community. Start building those systems of care, of community care within yourselves. And you'll be surprised, like, how much stuff you'll be able to do when you actually commit to that and watch it grow. But yeah, like, I'm also super down with all the 11 demands as well. But yeah, I got to go train y'all. So I'll talk to y'all soon.
All right, Sabs. Good. Thank you so very much. And so good to see you again. Love you, sis.
Bye, Afeni.
Bye-bye.
Good talking, Peter.
Sabs. Sorry, go ahead. Sabs, so what do you have coming up on your show this evening?
There's a gentleman coming on tonight that is a part of, speaking of movement building, another coalition with a group of people that are veterans that have had enough of everything that we were just talking about, actually. So he's coming on tonight. They're trying to build some type of movement. They have 13 demands. Eric's got 11. They have 13 demands, but they agree with pretty much everything that we're discussing here. And they're trying to actually get veterans in office to challenge the duopoly. So he's going to come on tonight to talk about that. And then we have news.
All right. Thank you so very much, Sabs. I know I wanted to make sure you get that out there before we continue.
In 1 hour.
Just wanted to think. In 1 hour. One of the things that I also wanted to talk about as well is like what Afeni said. Afeni was talking about join other organizations. Here's my point. You don't have to necessarily start something as long as you join something, right? One of the things that I think that was talked about was what Kwame Ture said. Eric, do you have a hard stop at 7 as well?
I can go a little later.
Okay. One of the things that was talked about was joining other organizations. I'm going to give some examples because Sabs, you talk about joining unions. What about tenants unions, right? That's another aspect as well, because sometimes we may not, like, I'm disabled, I don't have a regular job, but are you a tenant?
That's
But
a
this
good
also
point.
means you know your neighbors.
Yeah, like one of the most popular ones is in Kansas City, KC Tenants.
Mm-hmm.
They're really popular. You guys Google them. They've done a lot of like actions to help people. Like just honestly, a lot of tenants, from my experience talking to people with dealing with housing issues, a lot of tenants don't know, are unaware of the type of rights that they have when it comes to housing, particularly in Massachusetts, because Massachusetts is actually a little bit more friendly towards the tenants than the landlords, unlike other places I've lived. But oftentimes I find that a lot of people are not aware of the rights that they have as a tenant here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also, you know, our comrade Nick, he's a part of KC Tenants. So if you guys have not heard, then you guys can also look at different tenants unions in your city. This is just an example, but this is one of the groups that you guys could possibly join. I'm going to share another group. Now, this one is out of Orlando. This is Real Orlando Revolutionary Education Action League. They also do on the ground work, as well as they have the People's Free Kitchen, and they're doing stuff like, for instance, in People's Free Kitchen, they actually have a farm where they're actually growing food for the community. They actually do things like this, as well as they also go to city council meetings and things like that. So this is what they do. They also partner with pro-Palestine groups. And so they are doing work on the ground as well as doing political education. Could you possibly either start or join groups like this in your city? You don't necessarily have to be the one to start it, but could you join one? This is also very important as well. So I just wanted to put that out there too.
Yeah, I will say, if you're thinking about, getting involved in activism, probably first step is to join something that's already established. I mean, that's how I started. I started activism when I was in high school. But I joined organizations that were already established first, and then, went from there. But the first step is just showing up, just to show up. That's the hardest part for people, to actually just get out the door and show up to these meetings or events. I think a lot of times people are nervous, their first time. So, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I forgot to ask, Collin, do you have a hard stop at 7 as well?
No.
Okay. Just want to make sure. All right. So with that being said, one of the things that I wanted to also bring out is that if you guys also want to do something that's more on the electoral side, and by electoral side, I mean the ballot measure side, this is something that was sent to me from Roger Meadows. I want to share this as well. This is a how-to on getting ballot measures done. So even if you're organizing on the ground and you don't want to depend on politicians, you can circumvent politicians and actually do things that are direct democracy in order to get things done on the ground. You can even reference Eric's 11 demands in order to form a ballot measure so that it can be put on the books, so that it can help out the people. So you guys can do that as well. So I'm just going to go real quick over some of these, because this is also very important, how ballot measures get on the ballot. So, and I read this on my channel, but I think this is important to put here. I'm sorry. So somebody says something? Okay. See you later, Sabs.
Bye, Sabby.
So it says, when voters take to the polls, they not only vote on political candidates, but also ballot measures. Most voters know where they can stand on these measures, but how much thought is given to how they made it onto the ballot in the first place? To answer the question, one of the first define a ballot measure. A ballot measure is a proposed law, issue, constitutional amendment, or question that appears on a statewide or local ballot for voters of the jurisdiction to vote on. In the United States, a ballot measure can make it onto the ballot through one of three means: citizen initiative, legislative referral, or automatically in some states. Each state has different requirements to get an issue to appear on the ballot. However, Most ballot measures are placed on the ballot through citizen initiatives or legislative referrals. So you have the citizen ballot initiative. So it says citizen ballot initiative allows states to propose constitutional. I'm sorry, go ahead. Somebody said something? Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I heard something. Says the citizen initiative process allows citizens to propose a constitutional or statutory amendment or a veto referendum for inclusion on the ballot. This can be achieved through direct or indirect means, both of which require citizens to collect a specified number of signatures prior to being placed on the ballot. Citizen ballot measures refers to, okay, so it gives the history behind it. Okay, so that's citizen ballot measures, okay? And that's 18 states that allow for it. And then 21 states allow for citizen-initiated amendments. And then Maryland and New Mexico allow for veto referendums. Now, this talks about, you know, the steps into doing that. And don't worry, I'm going to be sharing this link so that you guys have this information as well. Okay? So we're going to move on to the next one, which is legislatively referred ballot measures. Another common method placing measure on the ballot. It says a legislatively referred ballot measure is an issue, question, or law that appears on the state or local ballot due to a vote by state legislators. So it's not necessarily the citizen, but the legislator that puts it on. So it says, in addition, says statutory or constitutional amendments can be proposed through legislative referrals. Legislative referred statutes, also known as legislative referendums or referendum bills, only require a voter approval if they amend a statute that was previously enacted through a citizen initiative. Constitutional amendments referred by a state legislator require voter approval out of 49 50 states, regardless of how the constitutional provision was taking place. Delaware is the only state where voter approval is not required. Okay. And then automatically referred ballot measures can also put before the public for a vote without action from citizens. A legislator or governing body. This process is referred to automatic ballot referral, which is often outlined in state law or state's constitution. So this one is it automatically appears on the ballot under certain circumstances, basically. So here are the states that have it. You have a list of all 50 states that you can take a look at. Like, for instance, Florida does the citizen ballot and also legislative ballot, but does not do the automatic. So different states have different criterias. So I am going to be sending this to all of you so that you guys can look into this as well. Just as a reference to let you guys know, here in Florida, we're actually going to get recreational cannabis on our ballot for this November. So if it passes, cannabis is going to be fully legal recreationally in the state of Florida. Crazy to think about it, right? But this is also the same state that passed the $15 an hour minimum wage. So that's also something that you can incorporate as well into your movement building too, in addition to doing mutual aid and activism on the ground too.
Yeah, radical stuff happens with ballot measures, right? I mean, stuff you never think would happen can happen with them. You know, they are an awesome, great tool.
Mm-hmm.
There's been talk too of like having them at the federal level, you know, which would be really cool.
Definitely. Your thoughts, Collin?
Yeah, I think these are all important, and something that I wanted to say earlier, but it's kind of connected to this. You need to be talking with your councilmen locally in terms of making the case for a lot of these measures, especially if you're a ballot initiative state, if you have access to them. Now, generally speaking, they will have to have community events to kind of talk about budget and all this kind of stuff. So that would be your opportunity. And this is what I've been able to do with my organizing. And this is part of what you were saying, Jaybe, as far as the background stuff. Like, I've had to have conversations with councilmen in DC actually over the last couple of months in various opportunities, actually talking about a child tax credit with them. Like, So obviously you have to, in these cases, you have to be somewhat nice and have more polite language than you might be using on Twitter, whatever. But as Afeni was saying earlier, this is about relationship. And the good thing is, given what I've been doing, a lot of councilmen know me, and more importantly, they know me as a teacher. So while they might say, I'll say this, I'm not easy to dismiss because they know, oh, we know this guy because he actually teaches. He's part of the community, so he actually knows what he's talking about. So at least for me, they have to kind of pretend that they somewhat care. But then it comes to the question of, again, these are the people who control the budget. So if it's in your city or town, so if you do not know who they are, but you're able to say who the president is, that's a problem, because these are the people that have the most direct they're the people who affect you the most directly in your life. So these are the people, and these are generally the people that you'll have the most access to. So part organizing is making your case to your leaders. And so if you have opportunities in your city or town, especially if councilmen have their meetings in terms of what the budget is going to look like, how they're going to spend the budget, what policies they're going to do in making the budget, you should be at those meetings and making your case of, because as I said, they might budget something that may not benefit you. And especially, and along with that, that's also kind of where ballot initiatives kind of come in too. So you want to make your case for that in terms of what they can elevate as part of that platform, so that you have a lot of these policies passed. So where you can, and you can, and it's easier to do it as part of an organization because its numbers matter. To be able to meet with councilmen however you can to bring up a policy or an issue and uplift it to them and see what they say.
That's some very sage advice, Collin. I really appreciate that. And that is something that needs to be said. And I think the phrase is all politics is local, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so sorry, go ahead.
No, that's what I'm saying. And this is how we have, and I think the argument that people make on the federal level that everything on the federal level is slow. We know that. But we better our chances if we do things more on the local and state level, because and this is how typically movements begin to grow. Like as a lot of states, implement a lot of these policies, more progressive policies that actually benefit people, that's when the federal government, they will have to kind of take notice and be like, oh, we see that in X number of states, there's this policy, like that is actually kind of popular. And that's what you can use as leverage in terms of anyone who's running for Congress, anyone who's running for the Senate on the federal level. That's your leverage to be like, look, we have this policy, but it's not implemented on the federal level yet. So what are you going to do about it? So that's a way that you can kind of build that momentum in terms of having these issues elevated, but it has to start on the local level first. If you do that and continue at it, then that's what's going to drive that momentum for other states to kind of follow suit. Again, which we have seen, that eventually it can be elevated more on the federal level and have a better chance of having it pass.
Gotcha. Thank you so very much for that, especially. So as far as, trying to also get to know your neighbors, buy a pack of cookies. I don't care if it's Chips Ahoy, and then go to your neighbor and be like, hey, I know we haven't really spoken to before, but here's some cookies. Wait, find out if they're diabetic first. If they're diabetic, then try to get something else, but get a, or just look, bowl of fruit. Bowl of fruit will take people a long way. I don't care. Forget the cookies. Give them a bowl of fruit. That's what I mean. All right. So, I am I think that's pretty much it. Did you so Collin, I'm going to start off with you. I know you're part of Indie News Network. What do you have coming up, and what are you doing in the near future? And where can I find you?
Oh, you can find me and all of my colleagues on INN at indienews.network. You can find me on Twitter at Obona_Collin. You can find me on YouTube and Rumble and Rockfin on INN News with my co-host Reef Breland, Wednesday nights at 9 Eastern Time. What do I have going on in the future? So are you asking in terms of YouTube or just overall?
Overall and YouTube too.
Okay, so overall, and I'll say this openly, kind of going off of this, I want to get into more organizing more. I actually want to see how I can make this, I don't want to say career, because I've been doing this in certain ways anyway, but I want to get more deeper into this, if that makes any sense. Being a teacher, you know, in a lot of ways, you automatically are an activist. In what we do, you're kind of promoting those needs for children. And I just kind of realized, especially in the education system that we have, is very limited to what you can do. And I feel right now I want to be challenged. I think especially being in independent media, where I've kind of figured I have a lot more to say than what I thought I did. So I want to help elevate those issues more. So it's just trying to figure out a way that I can kind of do that, like on the ground, so that I'm able to impact more people in the ways that is beneficial to my community. So that's kind of what I'm looking to do, or at least kind of look into or research more over the next year or so. So basically what I'm saying is I'm looking to step out of teaching, not education per se, but stepping out of being in the classroom, which sucks because I love being in the classroom, but I think I want to grow more in my development as an organizer. So, but kind of along with that, I want to be able to use whatever platform I have in organizing to kind of elevate the independent media space, to kind of help elevate those organizations that do need that support, and kind of figure out, like, how can independent media do a better job of, you know, impacting people in a way that they're able to move versus just sitting back and watch, if that makes sense. So those are the kind of things that have been thinking about in terms of what's next for me, just both in terms of independent media, but as well professionally, in terms of where I see myself and how I can use what I kind of know or want to grow into in independent media to help push things along a lot more.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much. It was so good to have you on, Collin.
Thank
Eric,
you.
Eric, what you have coming up, and where can we find you?
Sure. Oh, sure. I start talking, I can't talk. There's if you see my name on the screen, erictred.com. You can find probably all things Eric T. Red there, so it shouldn't be too hard to find. In general, one of the things I've been pushing is MCDS, money, corruption, demand solutions, and the concept of an 11 demands collective as a kind of almost a state of mind of I'm urging people to consider, whenever talking about any of these big issues, to put it in that framework: money, corruption, demand solutions. It always goes back to the money and corruption, why things suck, why these bad things are happening, what are our demands. Demands flow to the solutions. So you can find that through Eric T. Red or 11demands.org. Of course, you'll see me once in a while on Sabby's channel and around in general. And tomorrow night, after the Sabby show, which will be about 10 p.m. Eastern, I'm actually doing another one of the Forum 11 panels that Corey and I host. And friend of the show, Mastermind Hour, who we see in our chats, he's been on there. And you can, if you haven't seen him yet, you can see Mastermind Hour do his thing in person. And we're actually going to have tomorrow as a guest Jason Call, the who is currently the campaign manager for Jill Stein. He's also running his own Green Party campaign. And what I'm thinking is I'm going to start the conversation off with the question, can we vote our way out of this mess? And we're going to take the conversation from there. So we'll see where that goes. So please tune into that tomorrow night on my channel, but it'll be right after the Sabby show.
Awesome. I can't wait. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you all. And thanks, huge thanks also to Afeni. She had to leave a few minutes ago, but thank you so very much to you. And thank you so much to my co-host Sabs. We have some house cleaning to do before we head on out. But thanks, guys. It was really great conversation. And I'm so glad you guys were here for this in order to help educate the audience on how to do what a lot of us are already doing.
Thank you, Jaybe.
All right, it was good. Oh, and Mastermind wants to remind people that Jaybe is going to be on their show on Sunday.
Yes. And Mastermind Hour, yes, we are. Yes, we are good to go. I will be there on your show on Sunday. So yes, I think it's 7 p.m. Correct? I think so. So yeah. So see you then.
All right, cool. It was fun, Jaybe. We'll see y'all later.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right. So with that being said, I just want to do a couple house cleaning, and also I have an announcement to make that I want to talk to you guys about too. So there's some things going on. Before we get to that, I just want to give a huge shout out to the people who also make this happen. If you guys have not, we also raise money for our graphics designer. They do great work, especially Aaron does great work. So if you guys would like to, you guys can go to Venmo at Revolutionary Blackout or Cash App $ Mutual Aid Forever so that we can pay for our graphics designer. And thank you so very much for that as well. So that is there. Also, just wanted to give you guys a shout out on Patreon, and then I'll tell to you guys about what's going on. So just to give a shout out to patrons on Patreon. Hang on. Let's do that again. All right, because I want to make sure that we get this. All right. And now, all right. Thank you so much to the patrons on Patreon. Without you guys, we would not be able to do this work here at RBN. This also allows us to be able to do work on the ground. The work on the ground that we are doing is the same type of work that we were talking about as far as trying to build movements, to try to build mutual aid, to try to help people with dual power. So this is one of the things that we try to do in this space as well. Without you guys, we wouldn't be able to do this. So thank you so very much to all of you, because this is one of the reasons why we're in this space, is also to highlight the people who are also doing work on the ground as activists. See, the activists are the ones who need their voices amplified. And if you are in independent media, please make sure to also highlight activists who are doing work on the ground too, because without them, there would not be an us. So thank you so very much for that. Now, one of the things that I want to talk about, and then we'll get to the comments in the chat, is there's something that's going on with me, and I have not been able to express it on RBN yet. It was touched on last night on the Post Duopoly show. Shout out to the, Nick, CJ, Rome, and Sabby for assisting me with this. So yesterday, while I was at dialysis, I got a phone call, and it was my mother. She was distraught. And one of the things she was telling me is that the landlord who owns the condo unit that I live in is going to be selling. and very soon they will be giving us a 60-day notice to vacate the premises. As of right now, we are not on a year lease. We are on a month-to-month. They did not tell us that they were going to be selling the place. We heard through the grapevines, through other people, that it might be happening, it might not. We didn't know. And so we are trying to get ourselves essentially a place to live. Where we're going to go, we do not know. Myself, I'm on kidney dialysis. I'm actually working towards a kidney transplant as we speak. And my mother is in her 70s and her health is not very good. Needless to say, this has turned our world upside down. And so for anybody who is working poor on a fixed income or what have you, you know what this is like. Because for us, it is not just, oh, we'll just pay some movers, we'll pay this thing, and we'll head on out. When you're on a fixed income, when you're working poor, it does not happen that way. And so for us, number one, about 50% of our income goes towards rent already. That's what it's like in my world. Just because I'm on RBN, just because we're on YouTube, does not mean that we are affluent at all. And then on top of it, so yes, we are living paycheck to paycheck already. You know, the expenses that come with that are, you know, deposit, first month's rent. It is security deposit. It is things like application fees. A lot of people forget about those. Then moving trucks, storage, things like that. All these things culminate into something that we just do not have, that just, it's like a surprise upon us. So if any of you can give any type of assistance whatsoever, I do have a Venmo, a PayPal, and a Cash App if you guys would like to assist with this. If anything, if you want to share, that also is a help. We're going through it. And I cried my tears yesterday. And people are going to be asking, well, is what they did legal according to Florida law? Yes. Now, I am looking to speak with somebody who is a lawyer that can provide information pro bono. But from what I can tell, everything is done according to the lease. Everything's done according to Florida law. So that's the way the system works, unfortunately. That's what happens when you have a system where housing is commodified. And so I'm going to share into the chat. If you guys would like to help out at all, it's deeply appreciated. The Cash App as well as the Venmo. It is a whirlwind right now that we're going through. So there's the Cash App. Here is the Venmo. And yes, in Florida, I'm gonna be honest with you, it is a lot more geared towards it's geared a lot more towards landlords and real estate developers than it is towards renters and tenants. They really just do not care as much about us, because ultimately the system thrives on benefiting the owners of the means of production. That means people not like you and me. So there's that there. I'll also share in the Rockfin, and then I will get into the Rockfin. But I just want to let you guys know, like, as of right now, in 60 days, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I'll be living. I don't know, you know what I mean? And I've had people reach out, which I'm deeply grateful for, that said that they were going to help me. Shout out to the members of RBN Orlando chapter. Thank you so very much for reaching out and wanting to help. It means a lot. And yeah, I'm definitely going to need your help in the next few weeks or so. So It's deeply appreciated. And so let me get this there, and then we'll get into the chat. I'm going to start off in the Rockfin chat just so that I won't miss anybody, because I don't want to miss people. All right. So thank you guys for sticking around for this too. This is not the most happiest of news. And yeah, it's a lot. So let me go here to chat and Rockman. So thank you so much to Laura for the tip, $2 tip on Rockman. Hemcar says jobs are out there. Congo, Haiti, Yemen, Eritrea, and Donbass need our help the most. You don't need to like each other to fight for a common cause. Are there any nonviolent organizations left? If there are, we can look out for them. If you can look out for the ones that are there. If not, you can start one. You know, if there's not one there, make one. So there, definitely. Hemcar says my town needs to go kicking the ass. Most America does in the Poor People's Campaign. Thank you for this tip. Hemcar says, is anyone starting to look up at Dr. King Jr.'s Poor People's Campaign to occupy DC to end wars USA is waging and divesting? That is us, we the people. Reverend Barber's campaign has no plans of occupying DC with a shanty town indefinitely until our demands are met. Also, to put Fauci on trial would get more help. Yeah, unfortunately, I just don't feel like there is enough fire there to push for that. I would love to see a Poor People's Campaign with someone that is more forceful than a Dr. Barber. But yeah, thank you so very much. And then Hemcar, thank you so very much for this. I think adding demand for a debate of RFK Jr. and Bill Gates would garnish more support. That's funny. Audit the Fed, also the Department of Defense. Also, what does climate mean anymore? NASA says sustainability is a code word. Is at make geo and bioengineering only by informed consent and not forced or hidden. Read line 1 of the Nuremberg Code. Thank you so very much. And then Hemcar says local activists are paid Democrats around me. Interesting. Okay, thank you so very much. Hemcar also says Cynthia McKinney posted this quote, given the extensive, well-documented SAEs and unacceptably high harm to reward ratio, we urge government to endorse a global moratorium on the modified mRNA products until all relevant questions pertaining to causality, residual DNA, and aberrant protein production are answered. Okay, thank you so very much for that as well. All right. Thank you so very much, Hemcar. Appreciate it very much. Now, going to the chat here, we're going to be giving a shout out to Ravina Denver, becoming a YouTube member, a member for RBN. Clap it up for Ravina. Thank you so very much. Daryl, who is also a Revolutionary Blackout channel member, says $15 minimum wage was Shama only fams. Yeah, Shama Sawant was a huge proponent of the $15 an hour minimum wage. I think that is important. Now $15 an hour is nowhere near what is absolutely necessary. In fact, we need a sustainable wage, and that has to be something north of, well, in a lot of our areas, have to be something north of $30 an hour. Really, it should be a wage, or if you go to, we should not be paying more than 10% of our income. So wages should be, sustained with that, something like that. There's many different ways we can go about it, but it should be where most of our income should not be spent on just housing or living expenses. So yes, I definitely agree with that. Thank you so much to Talkish for gifting 10 Revolutionary Blackout memberships. Talkish, you are a real one. Thank you so very much for that. That is very kind of you. Thank you so much to James Starks for the super sticker. It means the most to us. Thank you so much for the very generous super chat to Tavis Kama. Says 100% of the hardest part is showing up, but we have to sometimes. Showing up, yes, is sometimes the hardest part, but once you do, you are grateful that you got out of bed. And yes, absolutely, Tavis. It means the most because your presence is something that is deeply necessary. Your presence means the most. Just showing up, like I said to somebody at the People's Free Kitchen a few weeks back, just showing up is half the battle. Show up and then say, what do you need me to do? And do it. I don't care if it's cleaning toilets. What do you need me to do? Because, and then many hands make the load light. So go there and try to be the 99th or the 100th hand, right? That's what it is. So thank you so very much for that, Tavis. Radical Leftist Extremists, thank you so much for the super chat saying growing a movement is similar to a pyramid scheme strategy. Got to tell people to tell people to tell people to tell people to join. Yes, the only difference is this is not a way to exploit people. This is a way to help us help ourselves. So that's the only difference. But thank you so very much for that, Radical Leftist Extremist. Appreciate it. Love you. Love the picture too, by the way. Gene Schaefer, thank you so very much for the super sticker. Thank you. It is deeply appreciated. We appreciate you, Gene. Also, thank you for this. Radical Leftist Extremist says, please take me seriously. This is the best life hack ever. It's called dumpster diving, and I do it daily. It's legal, and there's lots of free stuff. And you got to be careful about where you go, but there are some places where they'll lock it, and they will put like wrapped up food in there. Like, it's crazy, you know, but be very careful if you do it, and, you know, be cautious. I will say that. You know, I recommend to talk to, you know, somebody on the inside and see if they can bring you some stuff out for free, you know, before they ever put it into the dumpster. I'm just saying, talk to the people within a business first, you know, especially if they work at a grocery store or like a donut shop, or if they work at a bagel place or whatever. Talk to them first. I implore you. Okay. So thank you very much. Adam Platts, thank you so very much for the super sticker as well. Thank you. Yes, and this is one of the things that I wanted to also say. Police accountability report says, be careful. Some places report bleach on the food to prevent you from taking it. That makes me worry. Worse things can be done. Yes. So this is one of the reasons why I said be extremely careful. So thank you so very much for that. So let's go to a couple of chats before we head out. I want to make sure that I get the voice of the people as well. Because you guys got some things to say, and I want to make sure your voices are heard. So Child of God says, since everyone else is scared to mention it while using revolutionary name, I'm gonna call it out. The thing is that you know, unfortunately, a lot of people think that revolution is something that's always inherently violent, when revolution is actually just a change. Violence happens by means of a state that is resistant to revolution, so they will use violent means in order to be able to keep the system the way it is. That's how states work, and they will use violent means in order to do it. Revolution is more than just a means of protecting yourself and self-defense. Revolution also is education. It is infrastructure. It is also building dual power. It is means of making sure that people are okay, the members of your community, whether it's health, whether it's education, whether it's transportation, what have you. Many different ways in order to be able to build that dual power. It is not just through self-defense. Self-defense is a part of it, but it's not the end all be all. Be sure to quell some of your concerns Revolution is not meaning that you start the fight. It means that you prevent yourself from being harmed so that you can change the system. That's what it is. So let's continue in this as well. Whew. You guys got a lot to say. Ravina says chink in his halot hurt the movements on the ground. I think it's purposely set up as the gateway to keep people from doing anything real. Do more than what some people who are in independent media, especially in certain parts of the left, do more than what they say. What do I mean? If they're saying, oh, just go out and vote, no. That's something, that's an asterisk that you do on the back end, right? No. You organize with your neighbors and you get together. Sometimes it means just picking a topic, like for instance, and the 10 demands that Eric was bringing out. What are those demands that you can pick out and say, okay, we're going to focus on this and only this, and it will collaborate with other people who are doing other parts of the demands. That is something that you can do. And I think that is what's also very important. So pick something out and work on that. And then come together with your neighbors, with your friends, and say, okay, this is what we want to focus on. And then focus on it. Work on that. If you want to do something ballot measure-wise, then do something ballot measure-wise. If you want to do something that helps people on the ground materially, work on doing something on the ground for people materially. So that they, like for instance, if you know somebody that's facing eviction, try to see if you can raise money so that they don't get evicted. Or try to help them to be able to get a place to live. Or if you want to help so that people don't get, do the same tactics that KC tenants, and then get in contact with KC tenants and see what they're doing in their city, and then see if you can repeat the same thing in your city. These are different ways of doing different things, right? So I think this is what's important. But yes, always go above and beyond what those of us who have big mouths with a camera on our face say. Go above and beyond that. Okay? All One Same says, what is the purpose of a leader? Why elevate someone above the people? Who does that serve? Absolutely. This is also very important. The thing is that the goal is to be the servants of the people, and that's it. That's all. I think that's really great point as well. All One Same, who is also a Revolutionary Blackout channel member. Mastermind Hour, who's also a Revolutionary Blackout channel member, says, I am so BDS that I will go to McDonald's and fix their soft serve ice cream dispenser only to fill it up with chickpeas. Thank you so very much for that. Yes, hummus is very good, by the way. You can make your own too. There's recipes out there for it. Thank you so much to Comrade of RBN. Nick says, this panel is too powerful. You're too powerful. Thank you so very much. Retro Gamer, oh gosh, says, once TYT endorsed Hillary, they weren't serious either. Ew. Yikes. That is also there. Good to see you, Roger Meadows. Shout out to you for a lot of the things that you have said and brought out. Appreciate it, bro. Appreciate it. Let me see. I'm going to do a couple more. Outside Steelers fan says Trump needs to win in order for the left to gain strength again. You're right. Unfortunately. And the thing is, like, it's not that we want Trump to win, is that some people on the left will be awakened once Trump gets back in office. And then if a Democrat gets back in office, that's when they go. And the thing is, it's like, we need y'all to stay awake when both fascists are in office. That's the thing. All right, I'm going to do two more. GhostNet says, media heads get anxious about conflict resolution when it seems like, how can we normalize conflict resolution and growth as communities? get out of our own way and take that damn ego and put it to the side. We have to recognize that those of us in independent media, I don't care who you are, we are not always correct. And in fact, there's a lot that we can learn from people on the ground. We need to take our ego and put it to the side, especially those of us that are men in this space. Especially every single man. I'm talking about all of us men in RBN. I'm talking about all of us men at INN. I'm talking about all of us men from those of us who are Tim Black, Danny Haifong, Jimmy Dore, Cenk Uygur. I'm talking about Humanist Report, Kyle Kalinsky. Every single one of us that got balls between our legs, we all had to take our ego and put it to the side. Even me, yes, me. We all have to put our ego to the side because the thing is that we got to remember we don't know everything and it's not about us. That's what we have to recognize. And a lot of us are working on that. And a lot of us are approved on that. And some of us are further along on that than the rest of us. But we still have work to do. Now, it's not to say that women also in this space don't have that issue. Some do. Yeah, some do. But it is very incumbent upon us, especially of us men, to take that ego and put it to the side. And to listen and to take feedback, even if it doesn't feel good. Because the people on the ground are saying something and it's worth us to hear and listen to understand and not listen to respond. Because they're on the ground. They know what's what. So, yes, thank you so very much. One more and I'm heading on out. I want to make sure I get to somebody with somebody who I haven't talked to yet. Alternative Media Joint Center says, I believe you guys can arrange roundtables with activists to come up with, for instance, a 5 points coalition plan to rally around an election and put those 5 points in front of all candidates. That can be done. And I appreciate this as well. But why not just, we can do that, but also use those 5 points as a means to gather people to do activism on the ground. Because if the politicians aren't going to do it, then we'll do it ourselves. We save us. So do both, right? Do it dually. It's like, if you're not going to do this, then we're going to do this without you. So possibly, yeah. Thank you so very much for that. I went way over time, but I just want to thank every single person for, if you guys helped me out, thank you so very much. If you shared, thank you so very much. I also put in the description below as well the links to Afeni's, her social media, Collin and INN's channel is also in the description. And then the link to 11 Demands is also linked in the description. If you guys would like to help me, you guys can go to my GoFundMe on my Twitter. You guys can go to my channel. I also put my PayPal in there as well. I put the Cash App in the chat as well. And then my Venmo too, if you guys would like to assist with that. And then if you guys would like to just donate straight to just RBN, you guys can also join our Patreon as well. And thank you so much to the patrons on Patreon. Without you guys, we would not be able to do this work. You guys make this happen. Thank you so very much. And you guys also make it possible so that we can actually have chapters in our respective cities so that we can do on the ground work outside of just being in this independent media space. Without you guys, we would not be able to do it. Love you, love you, love you. So with that being said, we're going to head on out. Sabby Sabs on her channel, she starts in 13 minutes. Be sure to be there or be square. And then at 9 p.m., be sure to be there or be square for Nick at night on Thursday evenings. Because look, hey, if you guys want to get some good education, be sure to tune in to Nick as well. Love everybody on this channel. Nick, Rome, CJ, Sabby, with all my heart, thank you so much for all your help, especially during this arduous time. I deeply appreciate it, and it means the most to me. Thank you. So with that being said, Look, like I always say at my send-offs, water your plants, water yourselves, leave the world better than you found it, right? And get to know your neighbors and make sure that you do what you can to show your love in action to your fellow humans and sentient beings in the world. Mwah! Love you. Forehead kisses to all of you. Y'all have a good night.